All right. Welcome back. Hopefully this is working. Got a brand new camera and I'm going to try it out and we'll see how this depth of field works. It should be pretty good. It looks pretty good to me. Let me know if you guys see any glitches or anything that you're having trouble with. Hit me in the comments in the chat as well. Make sure if you're going to ask questions, put the question mark first. Okay. It helps me pick out of that stream of questions so I can see what you're looking for. I'm going to start today talking about Patrick Mahomes and the fact that some people have expressed some worries that he's got back-to-back games with multiple interceptions. We go back to what we were doing, 3-4 months ago. We talked about it when we projected the season. Chris and I went through it on the podcast. Check out Locked On Chiefs if you're not doing that already. And really what it came down to was that there's going to be a learning curve, and he's going to throw some interceptions. He's going to do what he does, and what we've seen the last 2 weeks has been consistent with that. There are times he just doesn't see defenders, particularly linebackers dropping into those shallower zones. And that's exactly how they got him last night against the Patriots. And give Dont'a Hightower some praise because he made a really nice play. And I think that's important to recognize that the defense is playing too. It's not just Mahomes, but that's going to continue. Those are going to be plays. And as teams learn to decipher and kind of move around what they're going to do pre-snap, that leads him to making some reads, and maybe that's going to happen continually. But man, I have to say, first and foremost, my big takeaway from this game is just how resilient the guy was, because to have that first half and have things not going well and come back and have that second half where you're able to execute and you're able to ad lib. They let him get out of the pocket more than I think they wanted to, and that probably didn't help their cause. But that really goes a long way. So I think everybody should stay encouraged. I don't think you should be too down about Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be fine. I think the bigger issue is obviously the defense, but can they continue it with these injuries, particularly on the offensive line? I think is going to be a concern. And it's something that I want to see rectified. I will be looking at the all 22. I'll have a video up later in the week like normal. And that will be specific. I'll be looking at Wiley. I'm going to look at the inside linebackers. Those are areas of need and distinction that we have to pay attention to, because that's what we're going to see going forward. First question, is Pat still the best in the league? Yeah, I have to say he's up there. He's definitely top 5. Maybe you got a little bit of, the question mark there facing Tom Brady, but he certainly, on the whole, coming out of that game, I think everyone recognized that he is that good. If you heard Dont'a Hightower's comments after the game, definitely a lot of recognition there. Therese Paylor talked to some of the Patriots after the game, and they recognize that this kid is ready. He is an elite player right now. And that even caught them off guard a little bit. While you scout on film to try and know what you're looking at, it was a surprise to some of them. And I thought those comments were really telling, because it's one thing to talk a guy up. It's another thing for the opponents to recognize in somebody so young and so new just how good a player that he is. And so I think that's the bigger takeaway, is that it's not just what you've seen in training camp or that we're seeing on film. It's that the league is recognizing him as well. Titus, thanks for that one. Don, what's the likelihood of getting Patrick Peterson? We'll talk about trade options here in a little bit. Let's stay focused on the offense. I will come back to it, though. Make sure you hit me again one more time. What they have to do, there was a question about Watkins. I'm sorry, it's scrolled past me now, but I will get to it. There's a couple of plays that, and I pointed them out when I was on Twitter too, that Sammy Watkins still looks a little confused in some of the calls. And you see him asking Tyreek in particular a number of times throughout a football game what he's supposed to be doing, what a certain check means, what his role is. And I think that's really the struggle. I don't think there's anything wrong with Sammy physically. I think it's still a mental thing, getting into it, getting to where he knows where to be every play. And that also feeds into what he's supposed to read, because you got to remember they're making sight adjustments for a purpose. And that's really going to be the big thing that sets him apart, whether he can exploit a defense or not, is if he and Patrick are on the same page, making that visual sight adjustment pre-snap, but also once the play starts, they're going to run some option routes, and that's going to be an important aspect for Sammy to get down. I like that they're handing him the ball, though, because it gets him into the game flow and it gives him options. And I think that's something that Sammy's an instinctual player, and I've always felt like he needs touches to get going. So we'll continue to look at that, but I think that's going to be important for the offense overall as they try to take away Kelsey, they try to take away Tyreek. Although we've seen now multiple instances where taking away Tyreek is a lot harder to do than they say it is, even when you think you've got it accomplished. Let's go down here. Do I believe that the Chiefs failed in the draft? I think they may have reached some. I think, honestly, I think it was probably more in the free agency period. I think they may have overestimated how easily Sammy can fit into this offense in terms of the volume and the knowledge. I think they overestimated how well Hitchens can play coverage. I told you guys day one on the podcast and everywhere else that Hitchens is not a man cover. He can play zone decently. I still feel he can play zone decently. I think they're asking him to do too much, but they're trying not to be too vanilla too. So it's a constraint on what they're able to do. But failed? No, I think you see Watts is going to be a good player. I think Derek Nottie is a great pick, especially for where they got him. And I think you're going to see him contribute to this team a lot going forward. Alan Bailey's going to be in a contract year. He's already making a lot of money. There's things that are going to change in the next year or two, and these guys are going to play some roles. I know everyone's up in arms about Breland Speaks. We'll talk about him as well, but I think you have to remember that he comes from a different system. He's changing position. He's clearly not ready yet, but these reps that we're watching the last two games are really going to change who he is and how fast he can develop. And the more they rely on him and the more time that they give him on the field, the better off he's going to be. Is it me or did Lucas play a great game? Lucas played well. He didn't stand out to me at all in a negative way, except for one of the last plays where they basically picked him. Him going against an offensive tackle, especially a guy that I think he weighs in at like 245 or 345. Lucas is not going to win that battle. I would have liked to see him come off and shed a little bit more, but once a guy gets his paws on you like that, it's pretty tough. Sutton loves the 3-4 and nickel. Our players are better suited for a 4-3. Jeff, that's from Jeff Jenkins. I don't know that I would say they're better for a 4-3. In a base, because I don't think you have a true will, 4-3 will, and I don't know that you really have a Sam either. I think what they're meant to do and what they're going to do is play nickel. And yeah, for the first front four guys, that's fine. But the linebacker associations and what they have to do day in or play in, play out is really what makes that nickel so susceptible. That's why you're seeing Terrence Smith so much, and that's a whole other story. The Eric Berry situation, all smoke and mirrors. Jacob Calloway. I appreciate the question. Smoke and mirrors is a little bit harsh, I think. Certainly there is an aspect to a player being able to feel comfortable in order to play full speed. Eric Berry at 60% isn't going to help you much. But that's what they're saying is on him. But you also have to remember that if a player feels like that, a lot of it is a precursor to a possibility of an actual injury. We saw that happen with Derek. We saw that happen with Eric Berry the first time. So I'm not as quick to discount that this is just a pain management issue. A lot of the pain that you feel is not just discomfort. It is your body telling you that you have something going on that may be more important than you really realize. So that's always tough. Fetus again, what's your take on the difference between the first half offense and the second half offense? Andy Reid knows how to make adjustments. They made themselves simplified, I felt, like getting the ball out a little quicker. You saw a little bit more pace. I thought Patrick settled down some too. You could tell that he was pretty amped up in that first half. And I thought that was, good for him to realize and not be overwhelmed by the situation. In fact, I took a little bit of umbrage from what Tony Dungy said at halftime, that he finally felt like they'd found something that was too big for Mahomes. And I don't think that's the case. I think he was looking to make a point and make his coming out party national TV, Tom Brady on the other sideline. I think that was a lot of it. So does Dallas trade Sean Lee? Do you want Sean Lee for 3 games until he gets hurt again? I don't think you do. I certainly don't want to give up draft capital for him. I'll tell you that. It's a tough one with Barry. Going back to that real quick, just because you got to let him feel ready, but you also got to take all the precautions you can to keep him from getting hurt. And I had somebody make a good comment that right now they're 5-1. Maybe we're all overreacting a little bit, because if they can continue this, get to 10 wins, and Barry hasn't played, but he's still on the roster, that means they think they can. And I'd rather have him back for the playoffs. So it makes a little bit of sense to me to do that. There's just so much that relies on the way that they run this defense that relies on Eric Berry. And some of the linebacker play that we really need to talk about, it was hidden because Derek Johnson is such an athlete. And while Hitchens and Ragland are not, you didn't think the drop-off was going to be that complete. But asking them to play as much coverage as you know they're going to is the problem. And that's why you're seeing Terrence Smith. And when Terrence Smith comes in, you're giving up that run. And then that's part of the chess match. But my problem is when you're on obvious running downs, I don't see what I want to see in terms of aggression. Later in the second half, Reggie Ragland made some plays, and a couple that stood out to folks on Twitter, and that's how I know you guys saw what I saw. And it's because he's able to be aggressive. He's attacking the line of scrimmage. He's attacking the gap. Aaron, you're absolutely right. Ron Parker is stepping up. Ron's kind of a roller coaster all the time, but they need him, and he's doing a good job. Thanks to everybody who's here. We broke 100. I like seeing that. So spread the word. We'll keep doing that. Why do I think Sutton is waiting to play Dorian O'Daniel? I don't have a clue. O'Daniel's a pretty instinctual guy, so I got to feel like if he can understand the coverages and his responsibility, you can put him out there and let him play, because the instinct of football will take over for him a little bit. I don't know if there's something else going on, if he's just not learning enough, if they're just holding him back again for later. I don't know. We're going to have to play it by ear until we hear or see something. I know a few snaps. I don't have the snap counts from last night yet, but we'll look at that soon. No to Sean Smith. I agree with you, Scott Miller. Does this loss mean we go to New England in the playoffs? No. Chiefs are still in first place in the AFC. And this is where the NFL gets interesting, because it's a matchup game. And while the Chiefs lost to this team, they already have 2 losses in New England. So there are other teams that matched up better with them and were able to beat them. That could happen again and again and again. It took, in my opinion, New England's best game to beat the Chiefs last night. The Chiefs did not play their best game. Patrick missed a couple of throws, at least 2 that were touchdowns, and that changes the game. Breland Speaks holding on to Tom Brady and not being afraid of that call. That changes that game. So, it is what it is. Okay. All right. This is the third question. So, big test. I'll get to Breland overall in a second, but 3 people have asked now about Patrick Peterson, and I get that. Patrick Peterson is a guy that is a half the field corner. And yes, corner isn't the biggest problem. Honestly, Steven Nelson gave up some plays, but he's playing well. I think Fuller is having a harder time than we thought he would in this defense. I'm not sure why that is. But Fuller's going to be able to play better, I think. I don't think you have to worry about him. Scandrick, I think, has been a really nice contribution. When we go back a few months and we're talking about Dave Amerson, I think you guys get just how big a difference Orlando Scandrick has made. But if you put Peterson in there, it changes everything. And if you're just running 2 corners, if they happen to go big, you're talking about Fuller and Peterson. That's a whole lot better than what we're seeing now. That's a game changer. And yes, he's got a big salary. I believe his cap hits in the 15 range right now. It can be done. The Chiefs would have to make a number of moves, but he's a guy that makes this defense better, because it takes some of the stress off the safeties, right? He's down here. It lets Parker slide over. It lets Parker not have to pay all the attention over here. You can play more cover 1. You don't have to play as much cover 2, because Peterson's got half the field covered. And I still feel that's the way he is. So that's an important piece to have. And if they can get him, I think it's worth it. I have to say, all the other rumors floating around, especially from the Cardinals, I don't think that Hassan Reddick is that much better than what you see from Anthony Hitchens. So it's a stretch. Yeah, he's got more potential. Loved him coming out, but he hasn't developed, and they've banked him around from outside to inside. And I don't know if that's ruined his development overall. Buchanan, that safety spot is so depleted. Maybe it's worth it, but not for anything that they're going to ask for in a trade. So I don't think that's worth it. It's one of those deals that we're grasping at straws to try to make this team better right now. And here's the thing. This team right now is going to have a couple of games that they drop just like this one. The Chargers still make me nervous. Next week, honestly, makes me nervous in terms of this team being able to accomplish their goal. But we're not talking about a team going 500. We're talking about at this point in the season, the low end's 10-6. The high end is likely 12 or 13 wins. And so long as they can stay ahead of their division and win that, I feel like they have a chance at still remaining the number one seed. And that's what's really important, because if they play that game last night in Arrowhead, it's a completely different outcome. And you don't have to say he had to hit that pass that he missed and they had to get Brady out and that kind of thing. That makes it more than a winnable game, especially in the cold. Not that particularly the Patriots are ones that don't do well in the cold, but if the Jags come in, definitely got that again. Okay. I'll talk about Speaks. Speaks has been slow to develop. I think they did him a disservice in trying to keep him in a weight where he can play inside and go into a 3. If he's a 3 technique, and he can do it, I liked best probably what he did as a 3 technique in college, but that's not what he's here for. He's here to rush from the outside, and he's too heavy to do it with any vigor. I think he's coming on. I think you're seeing him. He's using that slap a lot more. I noticed that several times against the Patriots, and I think that's a good sign for his development as well as being able to produce for this team. So you want to see that continue, and I think he's improving. I thought before the miscue with that sack of Brady, I thought he had played a better game than he had the week before, and I thought that he was making more of an impression on the game. And Jacob, you're right. He's heavier than he needs to be, but that's what they wanted him to do. They wanted him to be versatile and be able to play down inside as a D tackle. And that's a problem in scheme. That's a problem in asking a player to do what he's not very good at doing, or that he's not capable of doing at this level anyway. Same thing with Hitchens. And that brings everything back around to Bob. And we'll talk about Bob in a second because I see you guys bringing him up. But Speaks, especially if he can get into playing weight to be an outside linebacker. And don't get me wrong, Justin Houston runs at like 270. So, I mean, he's an outside backer. Yes, he's bigger and he's more power-oriented than he is bend the edge-oriented, but there's no reason that Breland Speaks can't do that either. I like his hand fighting. I like his attitude. I think he got a little bit scared with the possible penalty. And I know that he told Matt Derrick and he told Therese that he thought the ball was away, and he didn't take him to the ground for fear of a penalty. And that's, while that's frustrating for that particular play, that's using your head. That's not making a boneheaded play that we've seen players on this team make in the past. So I got to give him a little bit of credit for that. Would I've liked to have seen him, not throw him down, but at least try to clamp him and get to that arm, take a pass at it? Yeah, sure. But, he's a rookie. He's played 5 games. It's going to come along. So give him a little bit of break. Let's see how he does as he progresses through the rest of the season. Chris Clark is calling me right now. So, Chris, evidently you're not watching the stream. Check out the Locked On Chiefs podcast. It gives me a good idea that, Chris has some good opinions that we're talking about Matt Derrick with for the Tuesday show. That should be out here in another hour or so. How do I think they'll use their IR designations? I don't know. They don't have to designate anymore. They can just bring 2 back. I don't know that Dan Sorensen's going to make it, but he's back and he's moving around. He's at least observing. We're supposed to get an update on Dan Sorensen soon in terms of a reevaluation, and that's really the process step in being able to get him back on the field. And at this point, Dan Sorensen's an upgrade over the safeties you have right now. Although I think Murray and Lucas are making progress. I'd like to see Murray back sooner than later. I thought he was making good progress as well. Folks, remember, hit that, put a question mark in the beginning of your question. It makes it a whole lot easier for me to find the questions. Penalties are tough. Yeah, this team is playing a little bit loose. I'd like to see them ratchet that down. And, I'm not one to say the fans did this or the fans did, or the refs did this or the refs did that. I can't control that. I can't really analyze that. That's judgment calls. But I would like to see the team not give them an option. Don't commit iffy penalties, If you play clean and dominate your guy, they shouldn't have anything to throw a flag on. So that's where I'm coming from. Talked about the linebackers. Speaks, I think, give him some more time. I think he's going to get there. I think he's going to be, remember with D Ford, We didn't see him really till the year 3 do something positive. And if he had made that sack last night, that's a game changer. So Speaks is having an impact, maybe more so, maybe faster than we saw Ford do. Watts or Sorensen, it's a toss-up. Sorensen can play all 3 positions right now, and as he doesn't give you the high end that Watts does, because I think Watts is a playmaker and has been for a long time, but he also doesn't give you some of the mental mistakes. I like what Armani's doing, and maybe I should just do this and fix the color so that light's a little bright. Sorry about that, folks. I'm working with this new camera. If you join late, I'm still trying to figure it all out. So Sorensen, I'll take either of them. You got to have 3 in Bob's system, and I don't think Josh Shaw is somebody that we have to hang out to dry. He had a tough matchup one-on-one against Gronk, and that's again asking somebody to do something that they're probably not prepared to do. Running plays, tackles seem to be made for secondary players last. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you're not attacking the run game from a linebacker position, you're allowing them to get yards no matter what. I don't care. I saw both of the starting linebackers waiting for blocks to come to them in an attempt to shed. You have to go hit that guy. That's what Reggie Ragland's for. That's why I still don't think he's 100% healthy, but I like seeing that more. You miss Terrence Mitchell. Terrence Mitchell gave up the most yards in the NFL last year, and he didn't play 2 of the games. That's all I'm going to say. I don't miss him at all. I think Skandrick's an upgrade. I think Nelson's playing better than Mitchell did last year. You could be on that. Maybe we could have a conversation, but the top 3 the Chiefs have right now are better than Mitchell. Tackling is a big problem, and tackling is on the players. They have to do that. But I will say this. You have to allow them to practice, and that's prioritization of the coaching staff. And you have to put them in positions where they're able to make a tackle. I feel like Hitchens in particular is playing a little bit kind of out of control, because I feel like he's being asked to go into a position and has to recover from. Like, he's not comfortable. He's not in a place where he can make a play. And so you're seeing him rush, and you're seeing him miss tackles, and you're seeing him not play as well as he has, because I don't think Anthony Hitchens or Kendall Fuller, for that matter, showed up to this team and forgot how to play. I think it's partly the system as well. And I want a more aggressive DC, and I want somebody that can play to your players' strengths and not try to adapt them. And I've talked about this before, and I know you guys don't want to hear it again, but they can definitely win the Super Bowl this year. I will tell you that. Matt, that's a good question. And yes, it is definitely a possibility. What the Eagles give up last year, 500 yards of offense in the Super Bowl last year. And I heard a lot of people say that the players felt like that game last night was very similar in its pace and its energy. It's definitely a winnable game. I don't know that Barry's done. I have no idea. I hope not. But question, couldn't O'Daniel play a hybrid? Yes, he can. I don't know why he's not. I think he's an aggressive guy. I think he's a good athlete. I think he's instinctual. There's got to be some kind of hiccup there in either learning the system or something else. And we won't know until we know. I don't have any insider information. The guys that are in the locker room that I talk to, like Matt and Trez, they don't have any idea either, at least not that they're sharing with me. Justin has been hurt a lot. It's been a rough go since he signed that contract. But I will never say that it's a lack of effort on Justin Houston's part. So they got to get through that. Tremont Smith, a corner. Yeah, he is super fast. He can press, but Bob doesn't let you press very much. I think that puts him at a disadvantage. I think route running in the NFL is such a big step up from where he played in college, is that's the problem. But when you make plays in the kicking game like he did, it keeps you on the game day roster, and that gives him an opportunity, I think. And again, we're talking about young players, rookies, that they need that progression time. I think they will get it, and then they'll be a whole lot better off for it. Who else? What do you got? Yeah, we have small D backs and corners. Yes, that just happens to be the way it is. I'd like to see them draft a premier size corner with speed. Somebody like Patrick Peterson. So, will he be fired? Caleb, will Bob Sutton be fired? Oh, I don't know. Cheers, everybody. Andy is just a really loyal guy. I don't know that he will be fired. I think it is something that I think another especially an aggressive-minded defensive coordinator, could come in here and use this talented better? I do. I do think that could make a difference. Will they? I just don't know. It depends on if they have some kind of letdown, or if Andy feels he has to score 40 points a game in order to get a win. That may turn the tide. I don't know. It just adds more pressure to the offense. I don't think it cost us a chance at a number one seed at all. I think they're still in the front running there, and I think they showed that by tying that game up in particular, that they can play with the Patriots and anybody else in this league. I think the Rams game is going to tell you a lot, because the Rams have let some mediocre teams hang with them, I feel. Broncos in particular. Rex Ryan. Jason Austin. Rex Ryan 2019. I like the way you think. But the Chiefs have shown that they can hang with the elite so far. The Chargers are coming on, but that Rams team is going to be the thing. The Mexico City game is going to be huge to tell you where they're at that point. And then it's about trying to regain some of your health, get some of your players back. If LDT is able to come back off of the IR, I think that's huge. I like what Wiley did. I'm going to take a look at the film and confirm that what I saw live is really what went on, because I felt like he did a good job. I'm not here for the trolls, guys. If you got legit questions, cool. But yeah, I'm with you. It is what it is. If he's here, he's here. And no, we're not moving to the 3-4. They're running a base defense that is more of a nickel, but there's no intention to run a 3-4. You don't have all the guys for it. Your DNs at this point are undersized to run a 3-4 in the NFL. So I don't see that coming. Could they pick up a whole new crew? I mean, there could be another rebuild of this defense in the offseason. So that's nothing's out of the realm of possibility. So, I can't say never, but who else has a question? I think we're running low, guys. No, Hog Farmer, I have no new news on Mitch Morse. The evaluation continues. And as soon as I do, we'll let you know on the podcast or on here if it's in time for one of the videos. Mondays, I usually start doing statistical analysis. Tuesdays, I get on the film as soon as I can. So Wednesday is really where the film review comes out. And if they have an update by then, I'll definitely let you know. The pass rush will be healthy. Maybe Tano comes back. I think Justin's another week or two away. What beer? Yes. This is Fremont's fresh, what do they call it? Fresh hop ale. They did it at Hop Harvest in September. So good beer. Everything from Fremont's good. The pass rush is important. The Bengals game. Yeah, that's a good way to wrap up. We're hitting the half-hour mark here. So that's a good question, Vincent. The Bengals game. They are a brash defense. They are a vision. When you watch their defense, have a look, because that's a vision of what this Chiefs defense could be if they were allowed to get to that point. I think what you have to do. Hey, Sean, how are you? It was great to see you in St. Joe too. Sorry, folks. If you don't know Sean Mitchum, check him out on Twitter as well. Sean, I don't have your handle right now, but I'll get it to you. Good to see you. Actually, I ran into a lot of folks at camp, and I had a great time. I appreciate you guys saying hello. The Bengals, they got to be on their game defensively because Mixon is a talented back. He runs hard. And again, I think this is a team that's really their biggest weakness is the running back still. I think that AJ Green's having a good season, and Boyd's the guy that I think that they have to pay a little bit more attention to, maybe a little bit more than you think. He had 2 touchdowns last week, and he looks like he's coming on. And the thing is, the Chiefs corners, I think, are playing better than anyone expected, but they are undersized. They are smaller guys. So for 2 really tall receivers, the Bengals have some things that can hurt them. I think the pressure is going to be important. And they have a good line, but not a great line. I think the edge rushers and Chris Jones are going to have to get it done. Pressuring Andy Dalton is a good thing, and I think it can lead to good things for this team. So thoughts on Fuller, Cali Chief? I don't know why he's not playing up to what his normal has been. I think he's still a good corner. I think he's having a little bit of trouble. I'm not sure what it is, but I feel like the whole defense is thinking too much still, really, except for probably Parker. and Chris Jones. So, well, I'm glad you're not afraid of Cincy. That's good. I mean, have some confidence. This team needs to have confidence. So that's a good thing. I hope they feel the same way that you do. The Bengals is going to be another important step. They're another good team in this conference. And if they can get past them on another national game, I think the big thing that helped this team is they came away with confidence even in a loss, and that's really important. And I think that's another thing that helps them at home against another good team. I feel like they should win this pretty easily. My prediction will be that the Chiefs will win, and I think they can take away and continue to build on that, and that's going to be a big plus for them as they go down and get ready for a couple weeks later. The Rams is going to be a test at altitude with that defense. And I think Cooper Kupp's expected to be back by then. Kupp's a good player and a guy that I think matchup wise is going to be kind of difficult for the Chiefs. So that's going to be a big game. So I know there's more questions here. Go back when it reposts, go back and watch, because I think I answered most of the questions that are coming now. So let me leave you with this thought, and that is the Chiefs are 5-1. I probably would have had them at 4-2 if I did a game by game preview for the season. So take it for what it's worth. Enjoy that fact because they're in a good position and their problems are fixable for the most part, except for the safeties. I just don't see anybody really coming back. Health is the big issue there. I think their line's playing well enough despite them being unhealthy. So we'll continue that. Control the line of scrimmage, said Sean. Exactly. And that O-line, if they can continue to play well, they're going to be all right. I think the big thing is going to be, can that D-line continue to dominate? Because they got to get more in the face of these passers. Really like what Noddy did. I think Alan Bailey is well motivated. And it looked to me at the end of the game when Mahomes and Justin Houston were standing together talking, and it looks like Justin Houston is itching to get back out there. He looks like a guy who's perturbed. So I think that's a good sign for this defense too. A healthy Justin Houston. We'd love to see that because Frank Zombo, good for him for stepping in, but that's not the kind of performance that you need in order to be a dominant defense. The Chiefs don't have to be dominant. They need to be middle of the road, and this team is going to be really, really good. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'll do the film review. Check it out later in the week. I appreciate all of your time. Thank you. And check out the rest of the videos and hit us on Twitter. Check out the podcast. And I'll talk to you guys later. Cheers.